The Premier League is back for the final time this season. After a 3-long week of international break, it has officially arrived. It is match week 32 this weekend, which means there's still so much to play for from now to the end of the season. We are officially in the running. We are officially in the business end of the season, which means there are 7 games left all to play for. Those 7 games will decide on who's going to get relegated, who's going to get Champions League football or European football, and who is going to win the Premier League title this season. This Matchweek 32 this weekend. And anyways, don't forget, guys, to drop a follow, drop a like, drop a comment. Make sure you guys share the video as well. I really appreciate all your support that you've given me throughout the season, so I really appreciate it. So thank you guys so much for your support. And anyways, without further ado, we're going to get straight into it. The first game is on Friday night, where we got West Ham facing Wolves, 18th place versus 20th place. Most people would probably say that this is a relegation 6-pointer. Literally, both teams are in the bottom 3 as things stand after 31 games. However, though, Wolves currently right now, look, even though they're pretty much already done and dusted, though, already confirmed as being relegated to the Championship, Wolves are just playing with so much freedom right now. Wolves are literally playing with nothing that they have got left right now. And look, Wolves are on 17 points right now. Could they possibly catch Burnley, though? I mean, look, they're only 3 points behind Burnley, so they probably might fancy their chance of overtaking Burnley. Wolves did pick up a really good draw last time out away from home against Brentford, where they came back from 2-0 down. West Ham, though, on the other hand, look, West Ham did lose 2-0 to Aston Villa just before the international break. But West Ham are not out of this yet. Just literally, it's not over yet for West Ham, though, because look, they're on 29 points. They're still 1 point behind, like, you know, in survival, though. And look, they're 1 point behind Tottenham. And this game could be a huge opportunity for West Ham to jump out of the relegation zone. And look, West Ham, though, before this game they did lose in the FA Cup against Leeds United in the quarterfinals, where they got knocked out 4-1 penalties, though. I thought they played really well coming back from 2-0 down. And look, this gives West Ham a chance to now focus on the Premier League and their remaining games of the season that they have left. Bearing in mind, guys, this was the fixture where Wolves picked up their first win of the season. Apparently, where Wolves ran out 3-0 winners, and they beat West Ham by 3-0, though. If West Ham really want to have any chance of staying in the Premier League this season, if they want to really have any chance of Premier League survival, then this is the game where they must take all 3 points. And I think they're going to do it. I'm going to go for a score prediction of West Ham 1, Wolves 0. Up next on Saturday afternoon, we got Arsenal, and they face Bournemouth. Apparently, a month ago, there were talks about Arsenal saying that, mostly Arsenal fans, saying that they would possibly end the season with a quadruple. Well, in the space of, in the last 2 weeks, they went on to lose the Carabao Cup final to Manchester City, and then they got knocked out by Championship Southampton in the FA Cup quarterfinals. So Arsenal basically went from quadruple to treble to now a double, which means Arsenal could possibly be in double, trouble, if you know what I mean. Like, if they lose the double as well, they will be able to win the double. But all jokes aside, though, Arsenal currently right now, look, Arsenal are currently one of the most informed teams right now in the Premier League right now. They're top of the Premier League for a reason. But look, Arsenal are still only competing on 2 fronts. All they have left now is the Premier League and the Champions League. Speaking of the Champions League, Arsenal did manage to get back to winning ways, picking up a really important win away from home against Sporting Lisbon in the Champions League quarter-final first leg, which people say Arsenal were really lucky, though, due to how they performed. But in terms of Arsenal, the win is probably all that matters as well. So they got 1 foot in that semi-final as well. And Arsenal will want to turn their attention back into the Premier League, where they have possibly a 9-point lead over Manchester City, and this should be the game where Arsenal have got a huge chance of extending in that lead to 12 points clear. And look, people say that, look, some Arsenal fans would probably want Mikel Arteta out if he fails to deliver for Arsenal. Let's say if Arsenal go trophyless, let's say, I don't know, once again, because it's been like 6 years since Arsenal last won a major trophy. If Arsenal go trophies, then it would be an absolute failure of a season for Arsenal, and possibly Mikel Arteta will possibly exit as Arsenal manager. So Arsenal fans, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Anyways, Bournemouth, though, on the other hand, look, Bournemouth are currently right now, they're unbeaten in 11 games. They've drawn their last 5 games in a row. In fact, Bournemouth have drawn 15 games in the Premier League this season. I don't even remember the last time a Premier League team has drawn 15 games in a Premier League season. Look, Bournemouth are currently 13th place right now. It doesn't look like they'll be getting any European football for next season, though. But Bournemouth would possibly fancy a chance of at least finishing higher up in the table in the top half, though. And bearing in mind, Bournemouth did beat Arsenal at the Emirates last season, where they ran out 2-1 winners. But can they do that again? I don't think so, apparently. I'm going to go for a score prediction of Arsenal 3, Bournemouth 1. I just feel like that 11-game unbeaten run will have to come to an end at some point. And I think it will probably be at Arsenal. Next up, we got Brentford facing Everton. 7th place versus 8th place. This is a really huge game in the race for Europe. Both teams are level on points with each other. They're on like 46 points. Both teams have got some talented players and really great managers. Let's say that, Keith Andrews has done really well at Brentford. Most people would tip Brentford down as being relegated. I even predicted Brentford to get relegated myself at the start of the season. But fair play to Brentford, though, and they are 7th place right now. Look, Everton, though, on the other hand, they're doing really good as well under David Moyes as well. And look, this is a really huge game in the race for Europe as well, like I just mentioned. And both of these two teams are literally 3 points off the top 5. And pretty much whoever wins this game would go 1 point above Chelsea and level on points with Liverpool. And I think that team will be Brentford, though, because I feel like they are really solid at home, to be honest. By the way, in terms of both these teams' league form right now, Brentford have drawn their last 3 games in a row. Everton will be coming in to take them on the back of a big win against Chelsea, where they smashed them by 3-0. Iliman and Jai scored an absolute wonder goal of that kind. But yeah, I'm going to go for a score prediction of Brentford 2, Everton 1. Up next, we got Burnley, and they take on Brighton. Burnley currently right now, they are in 19th place, so they're on like 20 points right now. They're probably like preparing themselves for the Championship next season. And look, Burnley, they haven't won a Premier League game since February, by the way. And look, I do not see Burnley have any chance of making a late comeback in order to survive in the Premier League. Meanwhile, Brighton, though, on the other hand, they picked up a huge win against Liverpool last time out. Danny Welbeck's the man that scored a brace to give Brighton all 3 points. And if you look at Brighton's league form and in their last 5 games, look, they've actually been alright. Only 1 defeat in their last 5 games for Brighton, and they're currently on 43 points. They're only like 3 points off the top 7 in the European places. And look, I reckon that they will take all 3 points at Turf Moor against Burnley. I'm going to go for a score prediction of Burnley 1, Brighton 2. Up next, we've got Liverpool up against Fulham, 5th place versus 9th place. I'm going to start with Liverpool because Liverpool are absolutely horrible right now. They are an absolute embarrassment this season right now. Liverpool have lost 16 games this season in all competitions. Literally, they've lost 10 games in the Premier League. They're out the Carabao Cup. They got knocked out of the FA Cup, where they got battered 4-0 by Manchester City, and they got absolutely cooked against PSG last night, losing 2-0 in the Champions League quarterfinals. Though, and look, Liverpool have a 2-0 deficit to overturn in the second leg at Anfield next week. This is not 2019, it's 2026, and with the way Liverpool are playing right now, there's literally possibly a zero chance of them literally making through to the semi-finals of that competition. And Liverpool could possibly end up going trophyless for the first time since 2023. No wins in their last 3 Premier League games for Liverpool right now, and they are currently 5th place though, which 5th place is obviously a guaranteed Champions League spot. They're on like 49 points, but Liverpool could possibly miss out on top 5 next season if they continue the way they're playing right now. And Arne Slot is possibly under huge pressure right now. Fulham, though, on the other hand, look, Fulham managed to get back to winning ways, winning 3-1 against Burnley. And they're on like 44 points, though. And look, Fulham, though, you do sense that they would go to Anfield and possibly cause an upset. And if Fulham were to get all 3 points at Anfield, they would close the gap to Liverpool on 2 points, though. And Fulham, they will fancy their chance of trying to push for a European spot as well. However, I might go for a bonus point in this game. I'm going to go for a score prediction of Liverpool 3, Fulham 2. Next up on Super Sunday afternoon, we got Crystal Palace up against Newcastle. Crystal Palace, though, they've had a pretty rough patch, though, so far this season. Oliver Glasner is probably most likely to leave at the end of the season. Crystal Palace are currently 14th place, though. They're on 39 points. They're not going to get relegated. I don't see them finishing any higher up the table, though, let alone pushing for a European spot. Look, the only way that Crystal Palace would possibly get European football next season is if they win the Conference League this season and potentially ending up the season with silverware. Speaking of the Conference League, Crystal Palace, at the time I'm recording this, they will be playing against Fiorentina in the Conference League quarter-finals. Meanwhile, Newcastle, though, on the other hand, Newcastle have had a really shocking season. They've been pretty much in and around that mid-table all season. They're on like 42 points, though. They're only like 4 points off the top 7, though. I don't see them like pushing for a Champions League, though, to be honest. They're like 7 points off the top 5, though. And I literally can't see them making any European football for next season, though. I mean, they're out of all competitions as we speak. They've had one of the worst weeks in their club's history, like losing 7-2, 8-3 on aggregate to Barcelona, getting dumped out the Champions League. And on top of that, they lost to Sunderland in the Tyne-Wear derby, literally losing 2-1. So that is real bad for Newcastle. I'm going to go for this game to be a 1-1 draw. Next up, we got Nottingham Forest up against Aston Villa. This is a really huge game for both teams in both ends of the table. This is basically 16th place versus 4th place. Aston Villa managed to get back to winning ways before the international break, winning 2-0 against West Ham. Meanwhile, Nottingham Forest, they picked up themselves a huge win under Vitor Pereira. This is Vitor Pereira's first win as Forest manager in the Premier League. Forest ran out 3-0 winners away at Spurs just before the international break. And as I'm recording this, both these two teams will be playing in the Europa League quarter-final first leg later on tonight. Look, Aston Villa, they currently on, let's say, 54 points, a point behind Man United, and they're currently a few points clear of Chelsea and Liverpool right now. Meanwhile, Nottingham Forest, though, on the other hand, look, Forest, though, they're only like 3 points off the drop zone right now. They're 3 points off relegation right now. Bear in mind, Nottingham Forest, though, they have not won a home game in the Premier League since the 14th of December. Literally, that was like almost 4 months ago since Forest last won a home game. And Villa do have a really bad record at the City Ground. Aston Villa are currently 4th place right now inside those Champions League places. And look, you do sense that Forest could possibly get something, though, because look, They really need points to pull themselves even further away from the relegation zone. And Aston Villa really need those points to probably, sustain themselves for Champions League football. However, I reckon Forest will come out on top with all 3 points in this game. I'm going to go for a score prediction of Nottingham Forest 1, Aston Villa 0. Up next, we've got Sunderland up against Tottenham Hotspur. Tottenham Hotspur are in real, big, serious trouble right now. They're on 30 points right now. They're currently 17th. Once again, from last season, they finished 17th. But, however, if West Ham do win their game against Wolves and Spurs literally do not win this game this upcoming Sunday, then they would end up in the relegation zone by the end of the weekend. However, look, it has been over, let's say, 102 days since Tottenham last won a Premier League game. That's almost 4 months ago. They haven't won a game since December in the Premier League. No wins for Spurs in 2026 though. The craziest thing is that Tottenham have hired 3 managers literally in the season. They have been hiring more managers more than they have wins at home this season. That just sums up how embarrassing of a club Tottenham are. I mean, speaking of managers though, obviously they got rid of Igor Tudor, and Igor Tudor has left the club, and they have recently appointed Roberto De Zerbi as their new head coach for Tottenham Hotspur. Look, is Roberto De Zerbi the man? Is he going to be the person that's going to help Spurs survive relegation? Is he going to keep them up in the Premier League though? Is he that type of manager? For a manager of his quality though, look, I think he's a really decent manager. Obviously, I'll give you that. He does have a bit of Premier League experience though. He managed Brighton literally 4 years ago. Sorry, it was 4 years ago actually. He managed Brighton 4 years ago as well. But does he have experience of, in a relegation battle or something like that? I'm not so sure like that though. I mean, he has a 5-year contract as well. And look, him being in a championship, getting Spurs relegated would possibly look really bad for him in his career. I'm being honest in my opinion. Meanwhile, Sunderland, on the other hand, look, Sunderland, though, they picked up a really big 3 points away from home against Newcastle United in the Tyne-Wear derby, winning 2-1. And they're currently 11th place right now. This is 11th place versus 17th place. Both teams in the bottom half of the table. And Sunderland are on 43 points right now. And look, they have won 11 games, drawn 10 games, and lost 10 games. So I think Sunderland have been doing really well in their first season back in the Premier League. And currently 3 points, literally, off the top 7 of those European spaces right now. And look, Sunderland though, at home though, I think they've been really good at home this season. But they've lost their last 3 home games in a row all season. But I think they will change that in this game by taking all 3 points in this game. I'm going to go for a score prediction of Sunderland 2, Tottenham 1. Up next, we got a big game at Stamford Bridge. We got Chelsea facing Manchester City. Looks like Manchester City have got their season well and truly back on track after dropping points in their last 2 games against both relegation teams, then getting knocked out of the Champions League, getting spanked 5-1 against Real Madrid over 2 legs. They went and beat Arsenal 2-0 in the Carabao Cup final just before the international break and secured their first trophy of the season. And after that, they recently just battered Liverpool in the FA Cup and literally booked themselves a place in the semi-finals. Manchester City could possibly do a domestic treble, though. I'm not so sure, but we'll have to wait and see. They're currently 2nd place right now. They're on 61 points. They're currently 9 points behind Arsenal. City do have a game in hand, though. And let's say if Arsenal were to slip up this weekend and Man City collect all 3 points at Stamford Bridge and win their game in hand, let's say the gap would be possibly 6 points and possibly 3 points by the time City and Arsenal face each other at the Etihad in a couple of weeks' time. Look, Chelsea though, on the other hand, though, Chelsea are just an absolute shambles of a club. Yes, I know they beat Port Vale and they got themselves through to the FA Cup semi-final as well. But before that, they lost their last 4 games in a row. They conceded 12 goals in those 4 games, though, by the way. And look, the FA Cup right now is probably have Chelsea left right now for Chelsea. I mean, sorry. The FA Cup is probably, that's all that's left for Chelsea right now this season to potentially pick up some silverware this season. Look, Chelsea are currently 1 point off the top 5, so they're currently 6th place right now. But with the way Chelsea are playing right now, though, they might not be able to make it. And they got some huge, really difficult remaining fixtures for Chelsea from now to the end of the season, including this upcoming Sunday. It looks like Chelsea might not even make Champions League football as things stand right now. Liam Rosenior, though, don't get me wrong, I thought he started really well at Chelsea, though, but apparently, though, things have been really bad, though, over the past couple of weeks, though, for Chelsea, and he's been really under pressure right now, Liam Rosenior. Look, there's been talks about Enzo Fernandez, though, leaving, though, but apparently I think it's been confirmed that he might be staying or something right now. I don't know. And look, this is going to be a really tough game for Chelsea right now to possibly get anything out of the game, though, if they really want to have a chance of securing Champions League football for next season. And I think, though, with Manchester City, though, if they really want to have any chance of getting back in the title race, then they must go to Stamford Bridge and get all 3 points. I'm going to go for a score prediction of Chelsea 0, Manchester City 3. And finally, on Monday night, we got Manchester United up against Leeds United. I'm going to start off with Leeds United, though. Leeds United, though, they're currently 15th right now in the Premier League, though. No wins in their last 6 games in the Premier League, though. They haven't won a Premier League game since February, though. They haven't scored in their last 4 Premier League games, though. That's what Leeds currently have a problem with right now. However, they did beat West Ham in the FA Cup after the international break, though, and they got themselves through to a semi-final for the first time since 1989 or something, though. But fair play to Leeds, though, and they will be coming into this game at Old Trafford, with huge confidence, though, in this game. However, it doesn't change the fact that Leeds United, though, are currently only 4 points off relegation right now. They're on 33 points, though, and they really need to pick up themselves literally quickly. Otherwise, they could possibly get sucked in, falling down even further in the table. Meanwhile, Manchester United, though, on the other hand, I think Michael Carrick has done a really great job at Manchester United, though. We've been picking up some really good wins, though. Some of the performances have been a bit concerning, though, but look, it's taking some time. Look, we did drew against Bournemouth, though, last time out, where apparently Bournemouth had 12 men, by the way. Literally, we got robbed of 3 points in that game. And we're currently on 55 points, though, in 3rd place, though. Look, so many points clear of Chelsea and Liverpool right now. They're trying to, sustain ourselves in Champions League football. And look, I spoke about this in my, one of my other videos where how many points that Manchester United really needed to get Champions League football and secure ourselves 3rd place. So if you want to go see that video, so make sure you go check out on this page right now. Make sure you go like up as well. And yeah, look, for Manchester United, if we really want to secure ourselves at 3rd place, though, like I just mentioned, though, in that other video, we need 14 points in our remaining games to possibly secure Champions League football. And to do that, we must start that by taking all 3 points in this game. I'm going to go for a score prediction of Manchester United 2, Leeds United 1. And that wraps up my Premier League predictions for the upcoming weekend. I'm going to show you guys how the Premier League table will be looking based on my prediction and my results. This is how the Premier League table is looking based on my results. As you can see, we've got Arsenal and Manchester City. The gap is still 9 points. Man City still have a game in hand. Manchester United in 3rd place on 58 points. Aston Villa in 4th place. Liverpool's in 5th place. Brentford move up to 6th place, a point 1 above Chelsea. Chelsea drop down to 7th place. Brighton's in 8th place. Everton's in 9th place. Sunderland is in 10th place. They're in the top half of the table, though. Bearing in mind, guys, before I calculated that, there's only 6 points separating from 7th place all the way down to 14th place. That is literally insane. Then you got Fulham in 11th place, Newcastle's in 12th place, Bournemouth is in 13th place, Crystal Palace is in 14th place though. Nottingham Forest though climbed up the table. They're up to 15th place on 35 points. Leeds United though, they're currently on 33 points right now. And West Ham though, they're out of the relegation zone. They put Tottenham in the relegation zone. They're only 2 points above relegation, and Tottenham are in the relegation zone on 30 points. Burnley and Wolves make up all the bottom three. That wraps up my Premier League predictions for the upcoming weekend as well. Don't forget to drop a like, drop a comment down below, and let me know in the comments down below your score predictions for the upcoming weekend as well. And also, guys, I will be doing a live watch along for those games on the upcoming weekend, including the Manchester United versus Leeds game as well on Monday night. Thank you guys for watching this video. Don't forget to drop a like, drop a comment down below as well. Make sure you follow up for more content though. I really appreciate, guys, all your support. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.